Members, the Lord Mayor. City of Adelaide Council meeting on Tuesday, 25 August 2026. The Lord Mayor is in the chair. This council meeting will be streamed live and recorded for publishing to the internet. Please note that an audio and visual recording is being taken of this meeting. This means that your presence at and any contribution you make to the meeting may be collected, used, disclosed or published publicly by the Council, including transferring outside Australia.
The City of Adelaide acknowledges the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains as the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. We acknowledge and honour their spiritual and cultural stewardship of this country and recognise their deep and enduring relationship with its lands, waters, the sky and all living things. We pay our respects to Kaurna elders past and present and recognise the important role of emerging leaders in sustaining and strengthening culture. In addition, the Council acknowledges the vision of Colonel William Light in determining the site of Adelaide and the design of the city with its 6 squares and surrounding belt of continuous parklands, which is recognised on the National Heritage List as one of the greatest examples of Australia's planning heritage. We pray for wisdom, courage, empathy, understanding and guidance in the decisions that we make, while seeking and respecting the opinions of others. May we in this meeting speak honestly, listen attentively, think clearly and decide wisely for the good governance of the City of Adelaide and the well-being of those we serve. Now I ask all those present to stand in silence in memory of those who gave their lives in defence of their country, at sea, on land and in the air. Thank you. Please be seated. We have no apologies or leave of absence this evening. Could I ask if someone would move the minutes as printed? Deputy Lord Mayor moved, seconded by Councillor Snape. No debate. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Does anyone have a declaration? Councillor Freeman. Conflict of interest.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm declaring a general conflict of interest with items 17.1 and 17.4. Both seek the approval of the Department of Infrastructure and Transport, where I'm employed, but I'm not involved in either of those approval processes, so I'll participate in the debate and vote.
Thank you. You've filled out the form. If you could give that to the governance staff. Thank you. Now, we have 2 requests for deputations which relate to one of the items on the motions on notice. So, with the leave of the meeting, I'll give permission for 2 deputations and then straightforward, I ask the leave of the meeting to bring forward 17.3, a motion on notice, because it relates to the deputations. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. So do I have the requested names? Oh, yes. So Mr. Schumann and Dr. Zamidi, who is going to speak first? Thank you. I thought that to give yourselves a fair amount of time, I'd let each of you have 5 minutes, if that's okay. You can. Nobody complains if you speak for shorter time. Don't worry. So please address the council. Thank you, John.
Lord Mayor, thank you very much for the welcome. Deputy Lord Mayor, thank you for the motion. Elected members, thank you for the chance to speak with you this evening. I very much appreciate you making the time. For my part, no one will ever die wondering what I think. So if at any point I say anything which offends you, at the outset, let me make this perfectly clear. I'm not an employee of the South Australian Nanobubble Technology Company that may be under discussion this evening, nor do I have any financial interest, nor am I a shareholder, nor am I being paid. For transparency, I was paid as a consultant for a short period of time in 2025, and I have not submitted an invoice to this company since December last year. I'm here simply as a concerned citizen and somebody interested in my city. I chanced upon this nanobubble technology and controlled ozone water remediation technology at an investment meeting some 2 years ago. As somebody interested in the environment and somebody who uses the linear park at least 3 times a week, it occurred to me that the technology might be looked at for deployment in the water administered by the Adelaide City Council, particularly Torrens Lake, the general condition of which I don't need to enlarge upon. I attempted to draw this technology to the attention of various authorities during the algal bloom. Interested councillors might care to read an article of mine published in the online journal Pearls and Irritations. It was called Essays, Algal Bloom and the Big, Beautiful Bureaucratic Ballet. If you do read it, you might appreciate why some of the agencies and the scientific officers who profess to look after our water don't necessarily bask in my unqualified respect and admiration. While the algal bloom wreaked havoc on our waterways, on our marine life and our ecological systems, the government and the various agencies rolled out the prayer mats waiting for a thunderclap of certainty while they handed out research grants to each other. The South Australian company had extended many invitations to have the technology tested and looked at, investigated under whatever conditions the government scientists wanted. The result? Endless questions were quickly answered by the company, followed by a week or two of silence, followed by more yeah but questions. For the record, so we clearly understand, I fully understand and support the scientists' bureaucratic insistence that any technology is not going to do more harm than good. We are dealing still with cane toads, rabbits, foxes and blackberry bushes. In this instance, no one is asking that we release the equivalent of plutonium in the Rundle Mall. But when the Torrens Lake is in the condition that it is, when Lake Albert in Wagga, much larger than Torrens Lake, has been cleaned up to the delight of the council and the citizens, when other technologies have failed demonstrably, it is fair to say that there is a difference between responsible risk management and terrified inertia. There seems to be a principle on the part of some agencies and scientific officers that nothing should ever be done for the first time. I am not a scientist and I don't claim to be one, but I do understand logic, epistemology and the scientific method. Whatever theoretical arguments might be raised against deploying an oxygen ozone nanobubble technology for whatever reason, given the literature and its track record elsewhere, until it's actually tested, the arguments are precisely that, theoretical. Thank you for having us here this evening. I now yield to my colleague, Dr. Arash Zamyadi, to present and answer your questions. Thank you again, Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor, elected members. We appreciate you having us here this evening. Thank you.
Can I ask Dr. Zamyadi to come forward now? Thank you. 5 minutes again, please address us. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for this amazing opportunity to be here. So my name is Arash Samyadi. Just as a background, I did my PhD in Canada on detecting and removing harmful algal blooms from water, but I did most of my experiments with SA water and using the bloom on torrents in 2012. I actually walked with SA water crew down the river, pick up the bloom, brought it to SA water lab, and we did oxidation like ozone, chlorine, permanganate to remove the cells and the toxins from the water. Currently, I am a researcher and academic at Monash University Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering in Melbourne, and my research focuses on use of advanced oxidation, including nanobubbles, to removal of all microbial and chemical contaminants. So it's not only algae, but we focus on removing pathogens from the water as well. So that was hopefully a bit of background. So you see, I'm not new to Adelaide. I've been coming to Adelaide a lot, working with SA Water and local government to solve the problems, including the torrents. What is the biggest problem what biggest issue you face when you want to clean a water body like that? It's a large water body. The problem you face is that how do I clean it up energy efficiently with the least amount of chemical of oxidant agents. So when people hear advanced oxidation with ozonation, everybody gets scared. I understand that because we normally use high concentrations of ozone. But what we have here now, we have nanobubbles. Nanobubbles are tiny, tiny bubbles. Then when they are in the water, you don't need any energy. You need energy to generate them, but you don't need energy to diffuse them because they're negatively charged, so they go against it, they bump to each other, and they diffuse in the water. So when they are when a nanobubble pump is running and generating nanobubble in water continuously, the only energy you use is to generate the bubble. When bubbles are in the water, they diffuse by themselves and they slowly distribute in the water body. That's one thing. The second thing in that, nanobubbles create us significantly, up to 200-fold enhanced contact surface. What does that mean? It means we can use significantly lower dose of ozone, the oxidant in this case. Normally use 5 to 16 milligram per liter, high doses, dangerous for other aquatic life, but when you use this low concentration, it's not dangerous for other aquatic life. So with less than 2 milligram per liter, you're generating the ozone nanobubble in the water, which targets the microbes, the pathogens, and the algae that you want to get out of the water. Also, with this technology from the company in Adelaide, it's very unique in the world, is that it's generated, nanobubble is generated in the water. You don't take the water out, generate bubble, and then put it back. This way, you save about 2/3 of the energy that a normal nanobubble generator will save. It's also have been tested elsewhere. We have successfully tested this with Golden Valley Water in Shepparton and north of Victoria. With Melbourne Water, we are now running some tests with Townsville City Council in Queensland. So hopefully this short presentation, and I have some material. I brought some material to show you evidence of it working in other places. If there is interest, we're happy to share. Hopefully this provides the scientific evidence, and all of these are tested on triplicate following scientific methods. Hopefully it provides some reassurance about the performance of this technology. So I'm happy to answer questions if it's required.
Thank you for the presentation. A missing piece from the science that you just gave us. Why ozone? Sorry.
No, that's a very good question. So, I have myself studied lots of other chemicals. So when you want to try to do something like copper sulfide, you can dose copper sulfide. Copper sulfide is a heavy metal. There is environmental release thresholds. So that's hard to use. Hydrogen peroxide doesn't have any known disinfection byproduct, but it's very hard to diffuse it in the water. Hydrogen peroxide, SA Water has tried it. Melbourne Water have tried it in their other reservoirs. How do you put it in the water and mix it in the water is the biggest challenge you face with hydrogen peroxide. Permanganate causes color in the water. Chlorine, there is chlorination disinfection. Any chlorine product, there is chlorination disinfection byproduct. So from all the oxidants, ozone is fairly a strong oxidant agent. And then you use nanobubble, by the way, you put both ozone and oxygen. So because the nanobubbles, oxygen generator that the nanobubble generator pumps from the air, transfers, separate the oxygen and generate ozone. It's only 20% ozone. 80% stays oxygen, and you are injecting oxygen to the water as well, which is good for the health of the water body. So that's from that side. Then you can say, why don't we use, there are some enzyme-based technologies out there. There are lots of them have been used. The volumes that are needed are very large. And with a water body like that, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, the biggest problem, how do I mix it? So that's why ozone nanobubble, low concentration of ozone, injecting oxygen at the same time, and it diffuses by itself using the nanobubble technology. That is, yes. So that is why I think that's a good solution compared to what else we have tried before. Did I answer your question?
Thank you for the response.
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Oh, yes, please, please.
That's all the positives. What are the negatives or the things about it that aren't as good potentially as any other, chemical solution?
Yes, so we are always concerned about when you dose chemicals in the water. So about ozone, the good thing is that this will diffuse into OH radicals, which will do the advanced oxidation part, and then the rest will become the oxygen. There is the risk of having the ozonation, the disinfection byproduct, based on reacting with the organic matter. Based on the studies we have done today, for example, the work we did with Golden Valley water, which was the level of organic matter was significantly higher compared to Torrens. Because we are using this lower concentration of the zone, we were not measuring any ozonation byproduct. So that is a really positive sign to say that we're able to control the byproducts.
And what would happen if, say,
So I think
you
we
ran
might spread the questions around because
sure.
Councillor Martin's waiting and then Councillor Siebentritt. If we could just move on.
Thank you,
Yes,
anyway.
No problem.
Councillor Martin.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. You mentioned that we are doing trials in other places. Who is we?
So my research team, so I am a researcher, and I have a team of 7 PhD students and a postdoc, and we have funding through Australian Research Council, and my students are paid independent of any industry. They're paid by Monash University or Australian Research Council, and we are, my team, my students, we go out, and as a technology, for example, with Golden Valley Water, the test included us, at my team at Monash University, funding through Australian Research Council, and involvement of the Golden Valley Water. And we went to their site, they purchased the technology or leased the technology, so we were independent fully from the technology. We implemented the technology with them, and we took all the samples. So all the water samples were taken by my team, and we brought them to our lab. And we did all the analysis. In the Golden Valley Water case, the focus was on algae, so we did all the cell counts, all the toxin analysis, all the byproduct analysis, and we provided an independent report. The other one, the other work includes my team again, Australian Research Council funding, and funding from Melbourne Water. Then, as I mentioned, Golden Valley Water, and then Wagga Wagga. In the case of Wagga Wagga, again, funding from Australian Research Council that funds my PhD student, and then this SA Water Company who Wagga Wagga have leased or have their own arrangement independent of us. We bring the research and the science to the work there.
Right, and when you refer to the SA Water Company, you mean SA Water?
SA Water, yes, just SA Water up here, up by the Victoria Square, yes.
And look, one question that I wondered is the process, the technology to which you refer, a licensed technology? Is it licensed by a particular company, or is it freely available for use for researchers such as yours?
No, it is a commercially licensed technology that it is commercially available and can be used as the Wagga Wagga is using it now as the official part of their treatment in the council, yes.
It's a commercially available technology that you use?
That we use as part of our research, yeah, because even though it's commercially available, there are still lots of questions has to be answered about it. It has been developed to specifically target a specific contaminant from the water, but for example, if it removes this specific species of algae, does it remove other species of the algae? Does it remove all the toxins?
So, but I guess what I'm trying to understand is you purchase the commercially available technology to be able to do the research.
In the case of Wagga Wagga, Wagga Wagga. In the case of Goulburn Valley Water, Goulburn Valley Water. In case of Melbourne Water purchased the technology, and then we do the research on it, yes.
Got it.
So I think-
And from whom, just one question, Lord Mayor, from whom do you purchase the technology?
So in the case of Wagga Wagga is a company from, we didn't purchase it. The Wagga Wagga purchased it from the same company that is based in Adelaide. In case of Goulburn Valley Water is a company from California. In the case of Melbourne Water is a company again from California, but they don't do. What is unique from this, what is done in Adelaide is that the nanobubble is generated in submerged. In the technology from Adelaide, we pump it from, so we test different types of technology as well. You can generate nanobubble with different technologies. So the Californian technology takes the water out, generates nanobubble, put it back. While the technology from SA Water, which is very unique, generates a nanobubble in the water, within the water body. They don't take the water body. That's what I was so fascinated to test it.
And that's a particular
I think we
one.
might
Go on.
move on, because with due respect, there aren't many people in this room who understand enough science to grasp this. Councillor Siebentrit.
Thank you, Dr. Zemiardi, for the presentation. So our understanding is that it has been supported for trials in other states and yet has not been supported for trial in the Torrens Lake. Do you understand, or have you been advised, what the specific technological, scientific or water quality issue is that's prevented its trialling in Torrens Lake? Because I think that's what we're trying to get to the heart of.
No, I can't say what has stopped it from being trial, but if I understand correctly, the problem, as I said, I walked down in 2012 to pick up the algal bloom. So I understand the challenges is the algal blooms, which is both toxic cyanobacteria and the green algae, that there are a lot of them. So that's something that we see, for example, Goulburn Valley Water is very effective. Then there is a question of pathogens. If I understand correctly, there is the lake is affected by, I don't want to say loud, it's sewage, but there will be sewage overflows. There is always runoff. It's in the middle of a metropolitan area. Even if there is no sewage overflows, the runoff will have enough pathogens in it. So there is interest to see if that will do the work. And we have shown, for example, again, with the technology, nanobubble, ozone nanobubble was generated with the technology from California. It was very effective to remove antimicrobial resistance, which is from sewage. So it has been shown other places, but it hasn't been tested here. So I don't know what the barriers are, but when you look at list of contaminants that are potential in this water and they need to be removed, it has been shown that it was possible to remove them in other water bodies.
So I'm just going to bring this to a close. Councillor Ma, your last question.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And this goes to what we're being asked to consider later. Can you give me some more information on the life cycle of this technology? So what happens when you start? How long does it take to have an effect or the desired effect? Yes. And then what happens if you stop suddenly? And I guess the second question to that is, can you stop suddenly, or do you need to wean off?
Yes, so so normally it's better to start it far before a major event happen. So for example, if you're targeting an algal bloom, it's better to start it before the blooms are forming. Blooms are normally forming hottest time of the year, so it's better to start before. And once you start getting rid of cyanobacteria, you will reduce the bloom cycle. We are seeing that with Melbourne Water, they can reduce the dose of ozone, so that's a good thing, but you can't stop dosing it because you're already dosing at lower concentration. And particularly with a lake like this that will still, like 2 weeks ago, you guys got a very big rain, if I understand correctly, and there was a big wash. So the moment this happens, you continuously have to dosing your nanobubbles. The good thing is that this continuous dose of nanobubbles, so once you have it, like we have seen it in case of Wagga Wagga, is running non-stop for a year, and they are going to run it almost forever, is that maybe it's long run, because you're dosing oxygen, if you see in over long run, and long run I'm talking about over 3 to 4 years, maybe the health of the lake becomes so healthy, then you can decide to stop it. But during that time, you continue doing your measurements. You measure to see, do I have algal bloom? Do I get a high count of pathogens? So you continue to do your monitoring, but the goal is that the overall health of the water body will improve as well. But how fast is hard to say, particularly with a dynamic water body like this, which is influenced with lots of sources of pollution.
So thank you. I think we'll ask just Councillor Kabada for the very last question, and then we'll have a debate.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Arras, for your presentation. I just had a quick question. I think I missed it before. Who did you say funds your PhD?
Sorry?
Who did you say funds your PhD?
It's Australian Research Council. So we, as academics, we have the opportunity to apply for Commonwealth.
So thank you very much for your time and your really straightforward answers. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, 17.3, I've got the motion as printed, Deputy Lord Mayor. And it's quite a straightforward motion, 17.3. It's requesting a report back, investigation and identifying projects.
Lord Mayor, I have an alternative that I've put forward. And I've sent the alternative.
So I think that the alternative is so complicated. Where is it? Have we got multiple alternates?
No, I think the alternative was put forward as I sent.
Can we make it smaller so it fits on the screen?
An explanation to the councillors why the alternative was necessary, because we had no idea of what administration had done.
So I think, Councillor, it's quite complicated, and I won't accept something as different because we'd have to have
That's why it's
an adjournment to spend some time to read it. So my view is you should move the motion as printed on this one, because this is just too complicated. And
I sent it through very early, and I sent an explanation, and nobody got back to me.
I understand there was a response.
I don't think that this is complicated at all. I think it's
Anyway,
fairly
the point of it is, as I can see it, there are extra steps which are part of the administrative role. Why don't we just move the motion as printed? Because it's actually quite a good motion and has an outcome.
I actually think the motion as printed is almost ultra-virus based on the report that administration has given us, because they've already sent the letter to the advisory committee. And
I know that they've sent the advice, but it is, if you're going to move this, I'll have to take it off the agenda and you'll have to resubmit it because it's actually quite complicated. And as I've said, there is almost nobody in this room that understands what we're talking about, nobody with a sufficient scientific background, and this is designing projects. I think that we have to go with the decision.
I don't think there's anything scientific about this. I mean, I think we've heard that through the deputation, but this is very much saying that we should actually start a trial.
I think that's in the original motion. Councillor, Deputy Lord
ASAP,
Mayor,
not waiting for.
Let's move the motion as printed. If you want to move this motion, we can put it off for 2 weeks, but it is quite complicated and it's talking about pilots and research projects that is beyond our power at this meeting.
Well, I don't think I'm happy to. The reason why I've put the alternative up is because.
Point of order, Lord Mayor. Are we, can you just make a ruling if you can accept it or not, and then we can just move? So you're not accepting it? So we can go to the motion now? Thank you, Lord Mayor.
I've made a ruling, I'm not accepting the motion. If dissent from the floor is moved, I'm happy to take dissent, but otherwise I'm going to take the motion as printed.
Lord Mayor, a point of clarification. If the substantive motion, the original motion, is passed, what effect would that have on the Deputy Lord Mayor's potential motion in 2 weeks' time coming forward?
She won't need to pass it because I think this is detail of how to set up a project, how to get approval, and it's something that's within the power of the council staff to negotiate. It's very wordy and I don't think anyone's read it, have they? I haven't read it properly, but I think it's very difficult when you get a motion on notice and then it's changed at the last minute.
Because it was changed because no one gave me the appropriate information when I actually tabled the original motion on Monday, the 17th of August, and administration had the entire week to tell me that basically, no, motion was accepted, but it was ultra-virus, actually. I would call it as ultra-virus, not knowing the information.
Councillor, please don't let's argue on the floor.
Then I defer it, because I don't think the original motion is actually going to give us what we need.
So you don't want the motion as printed?
No, I don't. I actually defer this, and if this is too complicated for everybody,
Can I ask you if you would be prepared to withdraw 17.3 and reschedule this one for the next meeting then?
Yes, and I'll make it less complicated then.
I think less words are better. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. So can I apologise to the people in the gallery that wanted to see this motion go through? I had expected the motion to go through, it was printed.
Lord Mayor,
is this a point of order?
It is a question as to next steps. Could we perhaps have this come back through a committee first?
I don't know. Is that possible?
And would I need to move a motion to that effect to do that?
Through the presiding member, the motion on notice published in the agenda papers has been withdrawn by the Deputy Lord Mayor. She's forewarned the submission of an alternative motion on notice. The sooner we're provided that, the better we are able to provide advice regarding the veracity of the motion and whether, in fact, it's a step too far.
So can I just ask a clarification? The question was, should we send it to a committee?
Through the
And which
presiding member, it's a call for a report. I think your administration needs the opportunity to provide some advice as to whether aspects of the alternate is beyond power.
Thank you.
Sorry, excuse me, Lord Mayor. I'm a bit confused. Yes. Are you saying that you're going to be bringing this forward? Is the CEO
No, I'm saying that the motion has been withdrawn.
Is he bringing this into the committee for a discussion?
No. I'll repeat the answer. Councillor Marr asked if it could go to a committee. I asked the CEO. He said if the motion as amended again goes to council, then the decision will be made about how it's processed then.
Right.
Thank you.
Point of order, Lord Mayor. Just quickly, could I point out Councillor Giles is a member of the Audit and Risk Committee?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Councillor Giles. Would you like to move it?
I was getting ready for this.
I'd like to thank Councillor Freeman, but quite legitimate for Councillor Siebentritt to have a comment about the the long-term financial plan. I think we discussed this. I'm moving this motion as recommended by the Audit and Risk Committee, and I think we discussed there at a recent committee that the views of our Audit and Risk Committee are well considered. They don't just sit there and rubber stamp motions. They discuss things in depth and now have come. When they looked at the long-term financial plan, they came back with some key recommendations. First of all, saying that the indicators are within the appropriate target ranges, which is very reassuring to hear, and that the level of borrowings is reflected in the to be able to look at the significant renewals that we will have to look at in the future of the Adelaide Bridge, Torrens Weir and Rundle U Park. but also that we need to actually consider some financial discipline over the life of the plan. And this is a good reminder to us all when we're looking at our long-term financial plan. Just because we're travelling well doesn't mean we don't look to the future. And also, in light of that, also asked us to consider an amendment to the operating surplus ratio range from to a revised target of 3 to 20%. So it's really good to have an audit and risk committee that is providing us this very technical and specific advice. And in the light of them being an independent committee that comes and looks at our books, I think that we should take their advice, and so I move that recommendation 1, and recommendation 2 really is administrative.
That was seconded by Councillor Stephen-Tritt, was it? Thank you. Any debate? Councillor Moore? Any other debate? Shall we put it on block then? All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you. Then it becomes part of the advice that went to the City Finance and Governance, and I apologise to Councillor Giles. We'll now move on to Councillor Stephen-Tritt. Would you move this? And seconded by...
Are you moving it on block, Lord Mayor?
I'm just getting a seconder first, and then we'll decide. Councillor Freeman, do you want to take it on block?
Happy to take it on block, Lord Mayor. I would like to speak to it.
Sorry?
I would like to speak to it.
Can we please remove 7.2 from the en bloc? Because I would like to vote against it.
I think the mover, would you be happy to take them separately?
I'm happy to take them separately, yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor, please stop speaking. I can't hear the person who's
Yes,
moved.
very happy to take them separately, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I'm just worried about the wording on one of them. Can I just ask, can the CEO assist? It's just that the advice from the Audit and Risk was to amend something, and it doesn't look as if the Finance Committee has actually accepted the advice. This is the 0 to 20 going to 3% to 20%.
Through the presiding member, Council has considered the recommendations of the Audit and Risk Committee, which included feedback to the extent that Council consider an amendment to the operating surplus ratio range. That was a matter that was discussed at committee. At that time, we didn't have the benefit of the Audit and Risk Committee's advice. I'm sensing that there is an appetite for a change to the operating surplus ratio range, and would propose a tweak to item 1 of recommendation 2. Put a comma after public consultation, with the inclusion of the Audit and Risk Committee proposed amendment in relation to the operating surplus ratio range.
Sorry, that just tidies up the recommendations. And are you happy with that? And your seconder?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So would you like to speak to part 1 first, or do you wish, as we're going to take the voting separately? Or
Lord Mayor, I was going to speak specifically in relation to the long-term financial plan, so I'm happy to wait if you wanted to vote on part 1 first, or happy to speak to that now.
So shall I ask if people are happy to take a vote on recommendation 1, if nobody wants to speak on it? All those in favour as printed for 1? All those against, that's carried. Thank you. Now we'll move on to part 2. Councillor Stephen-Tritt.
Lovely. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Before I do speak, I did have a question for the administration. I know there are a number of key messages that came through in relation to long-term financial plan when it was being discussed last week, and I'm not sure that I can quite see them in the executive summary yet. So I was seeking whether there could be an undertaking to include additional messaging. This is information that's already in the document, but to bring it towards the front, in terms of just noting that we're dealing with once-in-a-generation renewal of some major assets. Also noting the Audit and Risk Committee has noted the appropriate treatment of long-term financial plan, as well as Council having identified a number of opportunities to maintain long-term financial stability. So just seeking an undertaking for some of those key messages to be brought forward into the executive summary. And I'll be happy to share that over email as well, CEO.
Through the presiding member, I'm happy to provide an undertaking that we'll amend the document to include those key messages at the front end, noting that we'll probably need 48 hours turnaround time, which might delay the commencement of the public consultation, but we'll stick to the 21-day timeframe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sue.
Would you like to continue?
I'd like to now speak to the motion. So, Lord Mayor, can I first begin by recognising the significant work that's been done by the team in pulling together this year's long-term financial plan. It's not lost on me that while there's a lot of interest often in the annual budget and business plan process, the long-term financial plan is ultimately a test against which we're measured and the judgment on the long-term financial sustainability of council. There's a really important narrative that sits behind the long-term financial plan for this year. In the past, it was primarily about budget repair, and there are still the indications of budget repair here, but what we are tackling head on, and it's been coming for a number of years, is we flag the need to deal with once-in-a-generation renewal of major assets in our city. And we all know what those assets are. They're the bridge over the Torrens, they're the weir, interesting the discussion we just had earlier on around the Torrens, they're the weir as well as Rundle U Park. Now, particularly two of those assets, they are not just here for the benefit of the ratepayers of the City of Adelaide, they are assets that support the well-being of our entire community here in South Australia, all those people who choose to pass through the city, whether for work or leisure. I note as well, Lord Mayor, that we're presenting this long-term financial plan at a time where there has been significant increase in construction costs over recent years. If we go back to 2021, I understand that construction costs were increasing approximately 1.8% at that time, and now they're averaging about 6.7% increases over that period of time. So we've gone through a period of significant cost escalation. One of the points to note, Lord Mayor, in the comments is, are we taking on debt as part of this long-term financial plan? Absolutely, we are taking on debt because we need to make a choice, members. We need to make a choice as to whether we fund asset renewal by taking on debt or whether we lump those costs on the ratepayers of Adelaide right here today. Now, I think the judgment of many of us around the chamber is that it is not appropriate when there are cost of living pressures to dump those extra costs for asset renewal on the ratepayers now, and that the sensible way to manage that, the sensible way, Lord Mayor, is to be able to take on some form of debt to be able to spread that cost over multiple decades and spread the cost over those people who will enjoy the benefits of those assets through time. Now, we do so taking on that debt with appropriate guardrails in place. For example, we have a range of thresholds in place which we continue to monitor. Councillor Giles has also already talked about the important role our Audit and Risk Committee plays on an annual basis to review our progress and ensure financial discipline. And we also have a buffer in place in and around that debt. So not only do we recognise the importance of having that debt to ensure we address intergenerational equity issues, but we have guardrails in place to be able to manage it responsibly. Finally, members, this plan also identifies a range of opportunities that we need to be aware to manage revenue into the long term. I'll be finished shortly, Lord Mayor, about 30 seconds.
All those in favour? All those against? It's carried. Thank you.
Some of the important opportunities we flag is the need to continue to look for grants, whether that be for state or local, state or federal government. And I know the council has been active in seeking grant money from both. We've also identified potential to use AI in a responsible way to help with managing our costs. We also have already committed, as a council, we've already committed to an efficiency improvement program and investigation into that. So, Lord Mayor, this is a responsible long-term financial plan as we pivot from not having only dealt with our budget repair over a number of years, but also looking at how we invest in these once-in-a-generation renewal of major city assets. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
I only wish to speak briefly to this. I think Councillor Stephen summed it up well. Only to say, you know, this is a financial roadmap, and indeed it's looking quite positive. The training I received at the LGA about these financial indicators is really what I was taught is the most important part of this plan. And if you do look at the table of those financial indicators that have been put forward, There are a couple of colours in there that aren't green, but overwhelmingly it is a sea of green. So what this puts forward is a responsible, fiscally responsible plan moving forward. And I note that the amendment in part 1 as well actually sets an even more ambitious, more fiscally responsible target of an operating surplus target of 3 to 20%, as opposed to 0 to 20%. So it looks like things are only improving from here, and I'm happy to support this.
And can I just draw your attention to the date changes? Are there any other comments on that? Councillor Couros? I'm sorry?
I think I'll be standing here alone tonight. I cannot support the long-term financial plan in its current form. My concern is not whether the council is technically remains within its financial ratios. My concern is how are we achieving these ratios and who ultimately pays for it. At the 30th of June 2026, Council's preliminary borrowings were just 9.6 million. Under this plan, borrowings rise at 81 million next year, exceeding 200 million by 2032-33 and peak at around 216 million. Yes, that remains within Council's prudential limits. But being below a borrowing ceiling does not automatically make this level of debt the right financial strategy. And we need to understand that it's driving some of the future financial pressures. This plan identifies 3 significant infrastructure renewals: Adelaide Bridge, Torrens Weir and Rundle U Park. Importantly, the long-term financial plan takes a conservative position of assuming that Council would fund these projects unless state or federal government funding is secured. These are significant assets, and in the case of the Adelaide Bridge and the Torrens Weir, their importance exceeds well beyond the immediate interests of the City of Adelaide ratepayers. I do not believe our ratepayers should automatically carry the full financial burden within an aggressive funding without an aggressive funding strategy with the state and federal government. The plan also acknowledges that higher borrowings and a larger asset base will increase depreciation and interest costs, with expenses growing faster than revenue. At the same time, we continue to rely on the growth in rates revenue. So my question remains, where is the equivalent to discipline on expenditure? Where are the measurable efficiency targets, structural savings and productivity gains that reduce the pressure on ratepayers? The long-term financial plan proposes around 849 million asset renewal and 142 million in new and upgraded assets over the next decade. I support investing in the city, renewing our infrastructure and using borrowings appropriately for long-lived assets. But sustainability cannot simply mean higher rates, significantly higher debt and staying underneath our financial ceiling. It also means prioritisation, expenditure restraints, measurable efficiencies and securing other levels of government funding for infrastructure for broader significance. Until I see a stronger strategy around those issues, I cannot support this long-term financial plan.
Councillor Martin?
Yes, Lord Mayor. Look, thank you for this to the administration. Look, it's a rhetorical question, Lord Mayor, but I do remember in 2023 the long-term financial plan that was proposed in 24-25 proposed substantial levels of debt each and every year. And yet, this evening, in the previous item, we considered our financial performance, and the administration reported, and I say I'm quite proud of it, that this council at the 30th of June didn't have debt. That's because financial plans, long-term financial plans, are based on snapshots of what the circumstances are and are forecast to be at the time. They don't anticipate strategies that the administration and the elected body adopt in order to ensure that we stay within manageable financial levels. And that's exactly what's happened over the past 3 years. And I have every confidence that whatever the forecast of the administration, the elected body and the administration will be working to ensure that we remain within reasonable limits. Not just the sea of green that we see on page 134, but I mean contributing real measures that will ensure that we stay financially viable. Now, the one flaw in some of the arguments I've heard tonight about the approach that's adopted by Council is that it's argued that it is not a reasonable thing for us to be projecting debt forward in circumstances where it is, and I thought it was the understanding of all elected members, that we subscribe to the principle of intergenerational debt. It was touched on by Councillor Siebentritt, the chair of our Finance and Governance Committee. That is to say, is it fair when we are looking at a project such as the Adelaide Bridge, which will deliver a bridge that is fit for purpose for decades beyond, that cost should be borne by this generation of ratepayers? Or should it, through intergenerational debt, be spread across ratepayers for the next 20 years or so? Well, the answer is emphatically, no, it should not. It should be intergenerational debt. But, Lord Mayor, I am comforted enormously not only by what I know will be the endeavours of the Council to ensure that the financial plan outcome is better than that which is even proposed. Not only that, I know from the commitment that this Council has given to provide year-on-year surpluses, now strategically calculated at no less than 3%, that the city is determining it will repay that debt. It will repay that debt. But you know, Lord Mayor, the thing that I like best about this long-term financial plan is that it is honest. We have confronted head-on what exactly are the imposts likely on this Council. And I reflect on, may I have just a moment longer? I reflect on, I reflect on a moment in this Council probably about 4 years ago, and it was about 2:30 a.m. And I remember the then Council, to my consternation, at 2:30 a.m. moving that we take one of these substantial projects that's contained in our long-term financial plan off the books and hide it. It just disappeared. Lord Mayor, they are all here. This term of Council has brought them all together and has developed a plan in order to deal with them in a fair and rational way. I commend this to elected members. I think this is a great achievement on the behalf of the administration and the elected body.
Councillor Siebentritt, do you want to sum up?
It'd be my pleasure to sum up, Lord Mayor. In summing up, Lord Mayor, I'd like to note again that this is a clear and a transparent long-term financial plan, as Councillor Martin has just pointed out. It puts it all out in front of us, both in terms of the challenges and the opportunities. And Lord Mayor, I look forward to the feedback that we're likely to receive on this plan, not necessarily from inside this chamber, but from those that perhaps want to commentate on this from outside the chamber. And one of the questions I'd put to people who are perhaps reviewing this, if they're not comfortable with the debt, I'd like them to answer some of the following questions. If they're not comfortable with the debt, are they comfortable putting up rates in the city? I think we know what the answer to that would be. If they're not comfortable with using debt here, are they comfortable with not funding the bridge? Or they prefer that we don't do the weir? If they're not comfortable with taking on debt, perhaps they're not interested in new park renewal. If they're not comfortable with debt, perhaps they could name the specific main street that they don't want to revitalise. Maybe that's something they could do. Or if they're not comfortable with taking on debt, they could look at maybe which community buildings around our parklands they're not willing to support, and perhaps name the individual community buildings that they're not willing to support. Or maybe they might even like to pick a road somewhere in the city they're not willing to support. The truth of the matter, Lord Mayor, is that we've discussed time and time again the challenge that we face and the need to use debt to address some of these renewals, and that very rarely do any commentators on the long-term financial plan ever point out what they will not support in the future. Lord Mayor and members, this plan presents a responsible way to manage our renewals by using debt spread for payment against assets so we don't lump all the costs with this current generation in the midst of a cost of living pressures. This is a plan that continues our work on post-COVID repairs, which were significant challenges. It renews, maintains and upgrades our city assets for the benefit of residents and businesses. And I commend the long-term financial report to the Chamber.
So just before I take the vote on this, I'll just have one brief comment. For those of you who weren't at the Audit and Risk Committee, they commended the long-term financial plan. They noted that, of course, SCOSA had given an optimistic report, but they did comment about our expenditure habits. And they did say, and I quote, they reminded us of the need for financial discipline over the life of the plan. This will be important to long-term financial sustainability, including project prioritisation, affordability, and long-term debt management. So the other lever we have to pull is to not spend more than we should. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. A division has been called.
Members, a division has been called in relation to item, 12, part 2. All those in favour, please stand. Councillor Martin, Councillor Cavada, Councillor Snape, Councillor Giles, Councillor Marr, Councillor Freeman, Councillor Siebentrip, Deputy Lord Mayor and Councillor Abrahimzadeh.
So thank you. Now we'll move on to part 3. That's carried, by the way. Recommendation 3, which is about our draft community engagement policy. Councillor Giles, would you like to move that?
I would, but I wouldn't like to steal the show from Councillor Siebentrip. Okay.
I'm sorry, it's already been moved and seconded.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, yes.
So by Councillor Siebentrip and Councillor Freeman. Would you like to speak to it as you were interested in this?
Only to say that it's been a long time coming and I'm really pleased that it's actually arrived. And it was a very frustrating process because we were waiting on the government to put out some guidelines and then for the LGA to respond to the guidelines. And in the end, we decided we would move ahead and do our own. And I think that the conclusion of the toolkit for community engagement is also a really useful document for all of us and hopefully will make our community engagement much more effective.
Unless there's any opposing views, Councillor Siebentrip, do you want to sum up? All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Councillor Marr, would you like to move the infrastructure and public works?
I'm happy if Councillor Freeman moves it. I was absent for that meeting.
Seconded by Councillor Freeman.
No.
Sorry?
Freeman to move it as she was.
Councillor Freeman was chair, of course. Thank you. Councillor Freeman's moving it. Councillor Marr is seconded. Councillor Freeman, would you like to speak to it?
No.
No. Does anybody oppose this? No. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. No reports from the Chief Executive. The number 1 is the local government. You think you have a conflict of interest?
Yeah. Through the presiding member, I'll declare a material interest in the matter and ask Mr Spartelis to support the Lord Mayor in the Chamber.
A conflict of interest has been called. Mr Spartelis is in the chair. Is anyone prepared to move as printed? Councillor Snape moving. Councillor Giles seconded. Anybody wish to speak on this? No? Does anyone want to summed up? All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. We could call the CEO back again. Thank you. It's hardly time to powder your nose. 14.2, this is a nomination and I think the recommendation will be someone who hasn't fulfilled the role before. Deputy Lord Mayor moved, seconded by Councillor Snape. Any debate? All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Now we move on to my report. Today I addressed the Federal Government's House Standing Committee on Regional Development Infrastructure and Transport. It was held in Parliament House on North Terrace. I spoke about the difference that the capital city has between us and or other local government areas, and the extra burden that we have in managing all the infrastructure, government offices, schools, hospitals, and public event spaces, and the fact that the financial arrangements from the federal government, the FAG grants, don't give us the just desserts, because they're based on the per capita residential population, which means that we're paid very much less than other larger councils with less burden and more capacity to rate. We do, of course, have other financial means, but I took the opportunity of discussing rate rebates and exceptions, and the challenge we have in not having any opportunity to have funding, as, for instance, the airport does and the Hobart University does, because they have ex gratia payments in lieu of rates, and there are some buildings in the city that also make ex gratia payments, but not to us, but to the state government. Of course, our arguments are quite different from other local government councils making submissions. Talking of the civic engagements that we've had in the city, one of the roles in the last week has been entertaining a civic group from Sagamihara, Japan, and their senior staff who came to look at opportunities for development. Of course, many councils suggest sister cities, but at the moment we're not in the market for any more of those relationships. I also farewelled the Consul General from Melbourne, or the Consul General of Japan, Takura Furua, who's concluded his 2-year posting. The major events that we had in the town hall were the Queen Adelaide birthday. There were 70 guests, and I noticed that instead of the rather ageing cohort of Adelaides, most of the Adelaides present were under 5, so clearly the name is becoming more popular. And I should just say that Princess Eugenie's daughter has been named Adelaide, and interestingly, in looking back on her wedding day, she wore a set of brooches which were commissioned by King William and given to the original Queen Adelaide, and she wore that on her wedding day. So clearly Adelaide was a name that she was interested in. Looking forward to younger generations, we've spoken recently about schools, safety and crossings. As you may recall, I initially thought we'd be having youth COPs to line up with the COP event, and I've attempted still to have a similar youth engagement program and had principals from schools in to discuss more civic activity for students as well as climate and innovation. One of the most poignant events I attended was the state funeral of Mr. Angus Gus Hughes from Bomber Command, and he lived to be 103 years, despite having 32 missions in the Second World War, despite being shot down and captured, despite being marched 200 kilometres as a prisoner of war. He was an extraordinary man who was both modest and courageous. I also opened the Main Street Exchange Breakfast Forum, which hosted visitors from across the metropolitan area. They were councillors, they were CEOs, and they were placemakers by the same or other names. As we all know, our main streets are very important. We also, of course, have had much engagement about our parklands, and those debates will continue, as they have for the last 100 years, about the future of the parklands and the future of the city. I think that we all have strong feelings about protecting our assets in the city, and I'll ask you to move my report, please. Councillor Snape, seconded by Councillor Kabada. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Now can we move on to councillors, council member reports? Any? Deputy Lord Mayor? Yes, please do.
I was pleased to represent the Lord Mayor at the Adelaide Design Week Mixer, which was a great opportunity to engage with Adelaide's design and creative community and recognise the important contribution that design, innovation and creativity make to the character, economy and future of our city. I also represented the Lord Mayor at the opening of the new Dunleavy Primary building at St Aloysius. It was wonderful to see the investment being made in education learning spaces for young people in the heart of our city, and to celebrate this important milestone with the school community. I also delivered a speech on behalf of the Lord Mayor at the Disability and Aged Care National Expo. It was a very worthwhile event, hearing everyone, the service providers, organisations, community members, and it was an important reminder of the need for our city to continue being accessible, inclusive and welcoming to people of all ages and abilities. These were very different events, but each showcased important aspects of our city: creativity, innovation, investment in young people, and education, our commitment to accessibility, inclusion and supporting people across all stages of life. Very City of Adelaide.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Councillor Freeman, and we'll just go around the room.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge that I represented you last week at the 2025 and 2026 SA Young Citizen of the Year event, which was hosted in Government House by the Governor and Mr Bunton. I was also joined by Deputy Lord Mayor, I believe in her capacity as board member for the Australia Day Council. And we also had our own City of Adelaide Young Citizen of the Year 2026 in attendance, Evan Johnson, who was the president of our Access and Inclusion Advisory panel, which I also attended last week. And while that is not a board and committee, I hope it's okay to acknowledge it as a panel that I attended, because it was a really illuminating panel to attend, and just the diversity of disability in that room and the professional way in which they would suggest ideas and give feedback was really remarkable. And I really encourage all elected members to go along if they haven't before. And to be honest, I would love to have a permanent membership on that panel moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor Mott, do you?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll only briefly speak about this because I know Councillor Snape also wishes to speak about this item. On the weekend there was the Stop the Chop March for Our Parklands rally, and I just wanted to specifically talk about the petition that was presented in the week prior that many of the attendees had signed, and indeed many of the residents and ratepayers of the City of Adelaide had signed. Personally, I was blown away by the community response, and I just want to acknowledge on the floor of this chamber how very grateful and thankful I was for that response.
Thank you. While I passed by, were you waving at me or putting your hand?
I was waving, Lord Mayor, but it's on a different theme, so I'm happy to come after Councillor Snape if they want to continue the theme of Stop the Chop.
I will, and I'll preface it by a personal explanation, because I know it's not official council business, Lord Mayor. Just to go on from what Councillor Marr said, I want to acknowledge yourself and a number of fellow elected members who attended that rally. Some of us spoke as well, and the over 5,000 attendees, a large number of which were City of Adelaide residents, as has been noted. And just to acknowledge the strong support for our heritage parklands out there in the community. And thank you, Lord Mayor, for speaking as well at the rally. Appreciate it.
So I've lost the thread now. Are we going back to Councillor Siebentritt?
Yes, we are. Just very briefly, Lord Mayor, wanted to report back that I was representing council on the Adelaide High School Governing Council, and it's just a good opportunity to reflect that there is a strong desire from governing council members to learn more about the role of the council in the life of schools in the city. And I know Councillor Freeman has the opportunity with Botanic High School as well, and it suggests that there's certainly something to explore in the future is how we continue to engage with schools in the city. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Yes, Lord Mayor. May I make a personal explanation? Thank you. Look, this morning I participated in an interview on Radio 5AA to discuss the noise camera motion coming up later this evening. And I was asked about the pods in front of the Women's and Children's Hospital, the latter on which I expressed no personal opinion, but which I believed I had outlined the circumstances. In a later interview, which was preceded by a replay of my comments, the Premier was asked if Council should be considering the matter, which he did not believe we should. But I make this explanation because I think what followed misrepresented my position, and probably Council's, but my primary concern is my position. In responding, the Premier said the city was opposed to the redevelopment of the Women's and Children's Hospital on the parklands. It is my understanding that that was not the position of the collective council, that is the majority council. In fact, my recollection is it was supported. He asserted that council collectively complained about the construction of the Adelaide Aquatic Centre. There may have been some dissenting voices, but my understanding, Lord Mayor, is that this council approved it. And particularly of concern is that the Premier said I was a party to a council proposition to upgrade the Possum Park golf course. He said it's their idea, referring to me collectively as well. Lord Mayor, the only idea I've ever had about the council upgrading the golf course is that I thought it was too expensive, far too expensive to justify. It would result in the destruction and loss unnecessarily of many trees, and it was my view also that it would be impossible to justify it to ratepayers. It certainly was not my idea, and Lord Mayor, I believe that the council of which I was a member did not accept that report. I conclude by saying, Lord Mayor, that it is a well-known and low political act to misrepresent people. I am disappointed that the Premier has done so on this occasion.
Thank you for your comments. Councillor Abrahimzadeh.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, earlier this month I had the privilege of representing you at the inaugural South Australian Excellence in Surveying and Spatial Information Awards. The evening brought together a number of categories and awards, and I will say that it was particularly fitting that the awards introduced the Colonel William Light Award, named in honour of, as we all know, South Australia's first Surveyor General. And I would just say that that inaugural award went to Alexander Simons for the Norwood Green project, so not within the city of Adelaide, but still close by. And I'm hoping that these awards continue on, and hopefully later on down the track, more projects within the city of Adelaide are recognised and awarded the Colonel William Light Award.
Lord Mayor, just declaring a general conflict with this item.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, this gives me much more pleasure. Council received at the last meeting, which I could not attend because of illness, a petition from a very large number of residents. This motion, Lord Mayor, was deferred from that meeting, and it seeks to action the concerns of those residents outlined in the petition. That is, that outside of peak hours, traffic on O'Connell Street generally moves at a speed in excess of 50 kilometres an hour if it is 50 kilometres an hour. Now, in saying that, Lord Mayor, I recognise that during peak hours, traffic is very slow, and our own administration has come up with figures that suggest traffic movement is much lower and around about 40 k's on average. In conversation with residents, some of whom spoke to ABC television last night, their concern is that we've encouraged residential growth with the construction of 88 O'Connell and 162 apartments, and that we have further large-scale development coming to North Adelaide, residential development in Ward Street, in Archer Street and Walter Streets, with the consequence that in addition to 88 O'Connell, there's an influx of residents, the area is becoming very pedestrianised, and it's becoming increasingly dangerous. There are fears from people, and some of them spoke again on television and radio yesterday, saying that they felt unsafe moving around the streets because of the speed of traffic. I heard yesterday also on radio other support from other sections of the community. I heard a spokesperson, one of the owners of the North Adelaide bakery, recounting stories of how people are attempting to cross the street mid-block and doing so in the most extraordinarily dangerous circumstances in which he fears for people's lives, and in fact thought that reducing the speed would improve the safety of people all round. And I also heard the RAA's Charles Mountain say very publicly that a reduction of speed on O'Connell Street would be good because it would signal to drivers that they were entering a pedestrianised area and that they needed to take greater care. Now, Lord Mayor, what I'm proposing is not all that radical. The administration notes in its commentary at 2 that a key outcome identified with the concept plan for our upgrade of O'Connell Street at 10.5 says people...
Can I just ask if it should be 50 kilometres per hour to 40?
Yes, that's what it should be, Lord Mayor.
Let's get the time code sorted, please. Okay. Your seconder, are you happy with that? Councillor Kouros, just mind that editorial. Happy to incorporate that. Are you happy with that change? Just cosmetic, sorry.
Thank you. The administration, Lord Mayor, says that 10.5 of our upgrade proposal says people-focused destination with opportunity for a reduced speed limit in alignment with the City Speed Limit Review project. Now, Lord Mayor, that is known, of course, to residents, as is indeed the decision of the Department of Infrastructure and Transport to lower the speed limit on the other of 3 major entries into North Adelaide, that is Melbourne Street. In fact, in the next few weeks, the 40k limit will apply on Melbourne Street. And of course, not unnaturally, residents around O'Connell Street are saying, well, hang on a minute, there are almost as many vehicle movements, almost as much danger here that we should be included. Lord Mayor, this proposal requires, as the administration has foreshadowed, a traffic impact statement. I think you call them a TIS. Yes, a TIS. And that will, of course, guide the way in which Council proceeds, but it is ultimately the decision of the Department of Infrastructure and Transport. But we can go no further until this body endorses the measure, and I ask everyone to do so, noting that this has wide support throughout the community.
Councillor Kouros.
Lord Mayor, this was meant to be in our last council meeting on the 11th of August, which was not presented because Councillor Martin wasn't there. And I had an amendment to that motion which talked about an investigation into the operation outcomes of the vehicle noise cameras trials that are being done. But I noticed that Councillor Martin has brought a motion quite miraculously in how my amendment was last week, similar to what my motion was. So in the interest of making sure that we are on the same page to deliver what we need to deliver for North Adelaide, I'm not going to amend this, put that amendment up that I had sent on the 11th of August. I'm going to continue on this path because what's more important is for outcomes, especially for my residents and the businesses on the street in North Adelaide. I'm so glad that Councillor Martin has come on board to reducing the speed limit. In March 2022, I brought a motion to this council asking us to investigate in reducing the speed limit to 40 kilometres an hour on the main streets. Sadly, it was voted against by Councillor Martin, and I'm not bringing that up as a personal. He doesn't need to bring that up as a personal explanation. It is minuted and it is recorded.
I think we're in furious agreement here.
Oh, Lord Mayor, but it just amazes me how from 2022 to 2026, we finally have councillors on board.
Point of order, Lord Mayor. I mean, look, the debate is about reducing the speed limit. If Councillor Kouros wishes to give me a punch on the nose because I've judged community attitudes to say...
I think she's tempted and she's not...
We can have a punch on the nose, Phil Martin night. I'm happy. I'm happy for that. And the councillor can move.
No, Councillor Kouros, please
address the issue?
Don't start bickering across the chamber.
I'm not bickering, Lord Mayor. I'm just saying that I'm so glad that he's come on board.
Stop it.
I'm actually in furious agreement. And that council at the time, though, did not support the reducing of the 40 kilometres, but it did support an investigation in the impacts of the surrounding street, which I still haven't received a report on, actually. So I would really like to know what came from that investigation back in 2022 and what impacts that is having on reducing the speed. Yeah, I've already emailed the CEO in regards to it, wanting a response, so I'll just wait patiently for another 3 weeks. I'm asking administration to look at those findings and tell us what they've learnt, because what inspired me from that is a lady that called me lives on Finner Street. Natalie, who's lived there for 45 years, has told me that she's worried about the reduction of the 40 kilometres per hour on the reduction of Melbourne Street, that it might impact on her street, on Finner Street. So while I'm all for reducing the speed on Melbourne Street, there will be impacts on other surrounding streets. So it would be great if we can incorporate that motion back in 2022 together with this motion for us to be able to assess the impacts. So while we're all about road safety, I know that this was brought in by the petition from the residents on 88 O'Connell. The factor is also the noise, which is coming up again in later in the next motion. But we also have residents in. Yeah, so there is also apartments on O'Connell Street that would like to see some sort of action on the street to reduce the impacts of in regards to safety.
Lord Mayor, I'd just like to thank Councillor Martin for his ongoing advocacy for the people of North Adelaide and say that the North Adelaide could not ask for a better representative. Thank you.
I'd like to sum up. Oh, sorry, Councillor Freeman wishes to oppose the motion.
Oh, sorry, Lord Mayor, to disappoint. I'm also in furious agreement. And I only wanted to make some remarks because I have seen some furious opposition online, which I wanted to briefly address. I really welcome this motion. This makes a lot of sense. It is a main street where I think people will find we want people to be walking, outdoor dining, talking to their friends, walking their dogs, crossing the road, not getting to their destination as fast as possible in a car that doesn't stop. So to me, 40 kilometres is completely necessary as opposed to 50. Just some of the points that have been discussed in this debate as well. A lot of the answers we're looking for are in our integrated transport strategy, and I never miss an opportunity to quote from it. So I'd like to quote some now. Reduced speeds are good for local living and businesses. Streets are quieter, more walkable. There's more foot traffic, more shopping, more outdoor dining. Reduced speeds can also reduce delays. Traffic can flow more smoothly. There are less crashes, so less disruptions. I'll probably leave it there. You can go and read it in your own time. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, why wouldn't we do this?
Just very briefly, Lord Mayor, and bear with me, this is related to the motion. In the members' lounge, there are a collection of videotapes, which perhaps gives you an idea of how old these items are. And on those tapes are recordings of news items, and one of those tapes relates to speed limits from about 2002, I think it was, when we changed from 60 to 50. Now, this is a perpetual argument that we have in this council area, and King William forbid anybody ever change their mind when there is new evidence presented. So I congratulate Councillor Martin on bringing this to our attention in this manner. We are pedestrianising many of our main streets. We're bringing in wider footpaths, and it is only appropriate that if we want to have a pedestrianised zone, we should also support it with a speed limit that matches.
I think we better sum up, because I'm getting a bit worried about members listening to 23-year-old tapes. It's I can hardly bear to listen to last week's. Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor, and I look forward to Councillor Kouros's continuing support this evening. Oh, Lord Mayor.
Oh, sorry, Lord Mayor, could I make comment on
you?
that? That was a running commentary. Can I not rebut on that? Oh.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, there's nothing controversial here. These matters it's proposed to publish have already been published. All the material is available. The intention here, however, is to have the documents in one place rather than having people going to the BSP website, the Behavioural Standards Panel, the Ombudsman's website, and trying to hunt out various council agenda. Lord Mayor, there is a precedent. What I'm proposing has already been done by Burnside Council in relation to a finding against one of its councillors in similar circumstances. And because, Lord Mayor, there is a lot of misinformation about, particularly in relation to the BSP findings.
For clarification, Lord Mayor, sorry to interrupt the councillor, but it's just...
Personal explanation.
Yes, it's a personal explanation. I've just been alerted to me that maybe I have a conflict here. I'm part of an ombudsman report. Does that mean that I...
Seek advice as to the conflict. Is it a decision? It's not quite a decision. It is not a decision about...
If it's a published report and it's publicly available, there's no conflict.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for asking.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Councillor Martin.
Yes, let me resume. Lord Mayor, there's a lot of misinformation about, particularly about the Behavioural Standards Panel report into the circumstances surrounding Henry Davis, who used to be a councillor. That report is misquoted here and there. And I think it's important for there to be an authoritative source to which people can go when there are references to these things. Now, this motion will do that. Additionally, and I'm anticipating the coming local government elections in April, there has been legislative change which will require declarations during the campaign by all candidates who've had an adverse finding in relation to the Behavioural Standards Panel, the Ombudsman, or indeed one of our own internal reports. And so when somebody says adverse report, whatever, you will be able to go to the council website to get factual information about what it is that the candidate is reporting.
Seek advice for part 3. I just noticed that it talks about investigations into breaches. Can you just give me a moment?
Certainly.
I thought those matters were confidential, and if there were no positive findings, they would be regarded as confidential. Can I just check part 3 is acceptable?
Refer Council to the administrative comment. Should Council resolve to support the proposed motion, administration will arrange that any publicly available reports. So the motion...
So it has to be clear that this is not just an investigation as printed. I just wanted...
Correct. No, it has to be published documents.
Yes.
Let's make that clear, Lord Mayor.
I apologise for interrupting.
That's all right. I'm not proposing anything radical. This is everything which is publicly available, but drawn together in one place. And look, Lord Mayor, I have to emphasise this is faithful to the obligations of local government in South Australia, the obligation to be transparent at all times, as indeed we are as a city. And Lord Mayor, look, frankly, knowing Henry Davis as I do and his commitment to transparency, oh, I'm just saying he'd probably support this too, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So just to see clarity, so this motion is about former councillor Henry Davis?
No, it's for all reports during the term of this council.
I was just confused because he was named twice in Councillor Martin's speech. So just a couple of questions through the chair. Are the Behavioural Standards Panel and the Ombudsman reports already published by those bodies?
They are publicly available, yes.
Through the chair, does this motion cover elected members at the Central Ward supplementary election in August 2024?
Correct.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. It says City of Adelaide 2024. We were elected in 2025. So we are therefore...
As I understand it, Councillor Barter, it's got 2 clauses, 22 and 24.
But we were elected in 2025, Lord Mayor. So there's 4 elected members.
It's a typo.
It's not a typo. It's the motion before us. It can't be a typo. We can't be included.
Lord Mayor, I'm happy
through the chair,
to take the amendment.
Is the 4 of the 11 members of this council, including the Deputy Lord Mayor, included in this report?
I think that you've picked an error. Thank you very much, Councillor.
We fixed it.
Through the chair, has an independent investigation report into a member ever been made public?
Can we just ask if the mover is happy to accept this variation?
Yeah, I am, Lord Mayor.
And the seconder? Okay. Can we just have it in colour so we know what we've done? And, okay. Councillor Caballo.
How we show was a typo, Lord Mayor? Maybe we've been excluded.
I'm sorry.
How do we know that it was a typo?
I see lots of typos. I try to tidy them up.
Has an independent investigation report into a member ever been made public?
I'll have to ask.
Through the presiding member, the answer to that is yes, and it was an independent report presented in public to this very chamber.
And through the chair, does the motion say how long anything stays on the page or how someone gets it corrected?
I can't answer that. In perpetuity or?
That's the question.
Through the presiding member, that's the direction of the motion.
Okay, so we're going to be on the website for the rest of our lives.
Well, I think that's the way of the internet works. I see no reason for you to be worried about this, Councillor.
Okay, can I speak to the motion, Lord Mayor?
Please do.
So, Lord Mayor, this motion is about transparency. Transparency about the conduct of elected members is a reasonable thing to want, and I want it as well. And I'm glad to now have been part of it as well. I thought I was excluded, and I was a bit worried. Now, members, I've asked the administration 5 questions, and I would ask you to hold on to them. Are panel and ombudsman reports already published by those bodies? The answer was yes. We're included in that motion now? Has an independent investigation into a report ever been made available? Yes. And does the motion say how long anything stays up if the person gets it wrong? No. So let us be precise about what this is. It's a permanent page on the front page of the capital city's website about the conduct of council members. That is not, well, that now covers us, but did not before. I cannot see a principal basis for this motion. This is not about transparency, it's about something else. It's about going after someone who's no longer here. Paragraph 3 says independent investigation into breaches of behavioural standards. We have been asked to publish adverse findings about named people permanently with no right of reply, no removal date, no correction process, and we haven't even asked a lawyer.
Point of order, Lord Mayor. I don't believe that that is a correct statement. Anyone who has a Behaviour Standards Panel Ombudsman report or an independent investigation would have a right of reply through those 3 bodies. It wouldn't be relevant to us. We're only publishing them.
I think that we're having some rhetoric here, and may not be.
Well, just as I finish, Lord Mayor, one last thing, and I would ask members to weigh this heavily. Read administration's comments. It says administration will arrange for any publicly available report available on the website. Those are the words. It doesn't go anywhere near paragraph 3 of this motion. It doesn't go near publishing anything that is not already published. I won't be supporting this motion. I think it's not done in good faith, and I think it's done to go after people that are no longer here.
Thank you, Councillor. So Councillor Couros, then Deputy Lord Mayor, then Councillor Moore. I think we're going to go around the room. So let's just move to Councillor Couros.
I just have a question. So is this from now on going forward, or is this we're going to dig it up from the archives, or for current councillors that have been here for a while? How is this going to work? So it's only for 2022 to 2025. Is that what we're saying? So shouldn't, if there's transparency, shouldn't there be transparency for the duration of the whole time a councillor's been on council? So why are we just depicting those 2 years? I'm confused. Because I'm all for transparency, but it doesn't clearly state, well, if a councillor's been on there for 15 years or 10 years or 8 years like I've been, shouldn't it be the whole of the investigations that you've had?
It's not my motion, Councillor. I'm just directing traffic, so there's no point asking me.
I understand that it's not your motion, but I can't see clarity from anyone else but you. So I don't understand why
I can only draw your attention to the words, and the words are for one term.
I don't understand why we're depicting 2022 and 2025. It's almost like a witch hunt, and I don't get it.
I think it's this term, and I will draw your attention to the new legislation around the election, which will require this information to be lodged.
But if we want transparency, if that's what we're really looking for, shouldn't it be for all councillors the whole term? Or can I move an amendment? Can we request that it will be...
Well, you are speaking, but I'll allow you to move an amendment.
Oh, well, I don't know where to move it because this is a kind of bit of a funny written motion.
Lord Mayor, if I might assist.
What is your amendment, Councillor?
I would like the transparency of all the conduct of whatever investigations have been held for each councillor throughout the duration of their whole term.
I can't take that, Councillor, because the Behavioural Standards Panel has only been here for a short time.
Lord Mayor, if I might interrupt to assist, I have sent through an amendment which will have the effect that the councillor is requesting, but I don't want to jump ahead of the queue, but I do just want to put that in there so that we don't get lost in the weeds.
So, sorry? I don't know what the amendment is.
May I speak to it briefly?
Can we just see it on the screen? Does anybody intend to second it? Does anyone know what No, nobody's seen it.
Happy to
Okay.
wait for it. The effect is quite simple. It is to change from members elected until the word by, followed by the semicolon, to change that portion of the sentence to read in a current council term and to be published for the remainder of that council term. So that then makes this a general motion to have the effect that Councillor Martin is putting forward, but it makes it general, so we don't need to update this every time we come through with a new council term. It does what Councillor Couros was talking about. It relates to the current term, and it can relate to any future term in perpetuity.
Just a moment. It does not achieve what you want. In a current council term.
Yes, meaning any current, so that we don't need to do this again next
So
year.
it has perpetuity and rotates.
Correct.
So it gets wiped off.
Such as the website is only relevant to the current term and therefore to the then current councillors,
And it gets wiped off at the election.
because it would no longer be relevant following the declaration of the election, because that would be the end of the term.
I think it clarifies the problem we had before. Can we just seek advice from the administration?
In any council term.
Is that clear?
Well, it has to have current, because then it's perpetual.
Is
I'm happy to
is a tab on the home page sufficiently clear? We all know what it means, but is that clear? I'm just seeking advice.
It's been changed as well.
Sorry?
I didn't realise that. That was the original motion.
The only bit that's changed, if you just grab the bit in bold, and we can put that in the above, and it'll make sense. That bit is the only bit that's changed.
Okay, I think that we can accept it because.
Lord Mayor, just a point of clarification. Can I ask the administration what its understanding of that is?
Can I ask governance advice? It would appear to me that it clarifies the length of time the information's there.
Through the presiding member, I think the amendment would benefit from the deletion of the word any and substitute with the.
Yep, sure.
Current council term.
No, the amendment, not the original one.
Yes.
We're going to the amendment? Thank you.
Yeah, Elise, go to the amendment from.
No, we're going to the bottom one.
If the CEO interprets the to be the perpetual current council term, then that's acceptable.
I'm sorry, I'm getting very confused now. I think we're going to have to adjourn for 5 minutes because
No, we don't need that long.
Well, we should be amending the bottom one.
If we just delete the bottom one and stick with the top one in green. Yep. Take out the word any and replace it with the, as the CEO has.
Substitute any for the. And to be published now, what's that?
That did say that, but it could be the as well. For the remainder of the council term.
What does that mean?
Meaning that then current council term, the items are published on the website until the conclusion of that term.
I think.
So the page only lives.
I think we can't.
The page lives in perpetuity,
debate.
but the content of the page is only relevant to the then current councillors.
So we get rid of the by.
No, by needs to stay because that defines who the publications come from.
We're keeping by.
Yep.
Okay, that's a small amendment then.
Yes.
Are we agreed that's illegitimate? Okay, so there's an amendment. It's been seconded by Councillor Couros. So would you like to speak to it,
Councillor Couros has
Councillor
already
Marr?
spoken. She can't second.
Have you seconded it or haven't you? I've seconded it. Yes. Okay, fine. Councillor Marr.
Can I just ask a question, Lord Mayor, just for absolute clarity? When we say end of term, what's the administration's interpretation of that? Because mine is the drop dead day before a new council starts. Is that what we're saying?
Through the presiding member, I'm personally struggling with whether the proposed amendment meets the intent of Councillor Kouros's proposal.
It doesn't.
No.
We've determined that.
So the first part, members elected in the current council term, that covers it. The second part is about to be published for the remainder of the term. Does that mean that we refresh the website at the end of the council term? Is that your intent?
Correct. And then if there are any new findings in the next then current council term, that they are then published and then removed again at the end of that
You do realise
council
that
term.
within the Act, they roll over from term to term.
I'm trying to satisfy the intent of the mover, the amender and the second.
Okay, so if we're happy to accept it, does everybody understand what it is? Okay, Councillor Marr, just speak to it, and if you don't want to vote for it, vote against it. Your amendment.
I've heard what Councillor Kabata had to say, and I've heard what Councillor Kouros has to say, and I believe what they are seeking is a generalised version of what Councillor Martin has proposed, which is to say that Councillor Martin's motion, the strict interpretation of his motion, would be that the current council term, that is 2022, and the supplementary election would be published, and there is no end date. I accept that that is a good point. So I would just like to remedy that so that in any current council term, if any findings are made by any of these bodies, that those findings are published on the council website, and then at the end of that term, which would be the last day before the new council is sworn in, that those findings, those reports are removed, and then thereafter they can be replaced, and it goes around in a cycle. So that's basically
Thank you.
what
I'll
this
let the
makes it general.
seconder speak, and then Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillor Kouros.
Just so I'm clear, and I don't want to complicate it, we're only talking...
Seconded?
Yes, just the current council term, you're only talking about the term that we're in presently, not for the duration, as the CEO understood me, the duration of the time that the council has been on council. Is that the interpretation? Correct.
That's correct.
Well, I will support this, but I was looking for the duration of time the whole councillor was on council. I'm all for transparency. I own my ombudsman investigation in texting someone where the toilets are. Wow. And I'm happy to speak to that to anyone who wants to question to me as to why. I think there should be, and I'm so welcome Councillor Martin coming back on transparency on, because I think there was a motion further on releasing reports on transparency and regarding some items that Councillor Kabata has that Councillor Martin did not agree with. So transparency, I'm all for it on every level. So if this is what we need to do to make sure that with our ratepayers that we are, squeaky clean, happy to do that.
Do we actually report these in our annual report?
I'll have to take that on notice.
And also, is it possible to actually have a link to the panel website and the Ombudsman's website as well? After speaking
Through the presiding member, that's how we're proposing to implement the decision.
Yes, so
It'll be a link.
There would be a link, so
Yes.
you'd have the report.
It won't be a separate publication, it'll be a link.
Perfect, thank you. Oh no, that I do support this totally. I just think this is normal. I thought we were doing it already.
Sorry. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Again, just a brief comment. I think that this clarifies the end date of this, which in perpetuity is complicated, I think. And I really welcome the transparency that this will bring to the term, which has been a bit of a theme lately. We've had a few questions about how much we're spending on consultants. We had a 7-page spread about how much we're being paid to sit on particular boards and committees recently. So I think this is a great part of that theme of transparency.
Lord Mayor, I have a variation. Lord Mayor, I am aware that there may have been a possibility of confusion about the role of council in this matter, and so I sought the advice of the administration to provide me with some additional words that would provide clarity. I don't believe the words alter the substance of what I was proposing, but I think they provide some clarity that was absent from the original proposal. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, I thank the administration for helping to clarify this. I am at pains to point out I am not suggesting in any way that the City of Adelaide should assume responsibility for vehicle noise emissions and the enforcement of standards. But this is consistent with our strategic goal of creating a livable city, and I suggest that this will begin the discussion that is necessary to make a change by involving SAPOL, and I would say to the administration also our own EPA. It's an issue raised by Councillor Couros previously, and even by the former Environment Minister and member for Adelaide, Lucy Hood, in respect of Ward Street and O'Connell Street. But in fact, this problem of excessive noise emissions is a problem that dogs the entire city, from O'Connell Street to Hutt Street, you name it, everybody has a story. And the source of these excessive noise emissions, Lord Mayor, are, and I won't mince words, they are hoon drivers, hoons. And they are motorcycle riders. And I'm not suggesting that every motorcycle rider is responsible for making excessive noise, but by God, there are a lot of them. And they ride in such a way that they cause maximum noise in what I can only assume is an attempt to gain attention. Now, there is a solution that has not been apparent until relatively recently, and it is because of the emergence of new technology. That technology is noise cameras, and in very simple language, if you just envision a speed camera with a set of microphones attached and an AI algorithm that is set to detect any emissions which exceed the standards which are set by the EPA in South Australia and which are in excess of whatever that is. Indeed, my recollection, and it's some time since I looked, but I think it's somewhere around about 90 decibels, depending on the year of manufacture of the vehicle, and about 100 decibels for trucks. Now, these are being trialled. There has been a trial in New South Wales which involved the participation of New South Wales Police, their EPA, and 2 local government areas which collaborated. I would appreciate a moment longer, Lord Mayor, which, thank you, collaborated in a trial which did not expiate anyone, but simply gathered information. It found that 50% of those nabbed for making excessive noise were repeat offenders. And really interestingly, more than 50% of those nabbed were also motorcycle riders, and yet they constitute about 4% of vehicle registrations in New South Wales, so they were overrepresented. And in Victoria, there is a trial underway already, again in consultation between Vic Police, the EPA and local government areas. No data yet, but interestingly, nobody is being expiated. If you are caught by one of those cameras, you are required to take your vehicle to a testing station that's authorised and the authorities test it. If it doesn't comply, then of course it's possible that there's an expiation. So, look, Lord Mayor, in each of those cases, local government has been a partner. In this case, I'm suggesting that we too should at least begin the discussion, and the administration I'm asking to investigate how we do that, how we start that discussion, and to include the EPA and SA Police in that as they see fit. Lord Mayor, it is a scourge. I can't tell you how many people have complained to me about how they are woken at night by such noise. I had one resident of 88 O'Connell say to me, how is it that one of those big Qatar jets can fly overhead and I don't hear it, but some bloke on a motorbike wakes me at 11 o'clock at night? And the answer is that the noise is at a different level and it needs to be stopped. Lord Mayor, I think everyone can help encourage people to move to this city by supporting this.
Second paragraph, Elise, outlining council's apostrophe between the L and the S.
Sorry about that, Councillor Bruce.
Lord Mayor, I have been working so hard on this for the last 8 years. It has been meeting after meeting with all the residents that are living on O'Connell Street and Ward Street, and I myself have been experiencing this. Hoon driving, it's exactly that. It's hoon driving, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. We actually had residents here, and I'm so sad they didn't stay longer for this motion. They were sitting there in the gallery. They actually came purposely for this motion because they just bought an apartment in Braun Place and they are thinking of selling it and leaving. That's how much it's getting out of control. I am at wit's end. I don't know what more I can do. I have meeting after meeting with SAPOL, meeting after meeting with administration, meeting after meeting with all the residents, and now it's coming to 88 O'Connell residents who newly just moved into the area, and it's just, I cannot begin to explain to you how bad this noise is. There are trials that have been done, great. Let's look at them. Let's see what we can do. Let's act as a council for these residents and get something done. We're upgrading the street. Let's see what we can use. Let's see what technology we can use. Let's see where we can trial it. If Melbourne Street can happen as soon as possible, maybe we can trial it, see how it works out and spread it out throughout the whole of the city. I understand that there are pockets of the city that have the same problem. I know, I hear it as well. And I want to encourage people to live here, and I want them to increase their population like everybody else does. But, you know, I don't want to hear the negative aspect of that I hear continuously, especially from people that live in apartments, about the noise that travels into their homes. It stresses them out, and I just want to see an end to this. So if we can, I'm actually begging administration to actually divert their attention fully to this and see what we can do.
I'm totally in support of this. I've got personal experience. I lived in North Adelaide for many years, but our first townhouse that we purchased there, we actually moved, which was just off at O'Connell, because of the noise. And my husband, who is normally very mild-mannered, was becoming very grumpy. And we moved to the west of the city of Adelaide, where it's so much quieter and so much more peaceful. So at the end of the day, totally support this because, believe it or not, it is so debilitating. And when you don't get the sleep that you need to get, it affects your entire life. So I totally support this.
I'm not speaking against it, but I am querying how this actually is going to work. So the testing, this is a legal rabbit hole because we are putting cameras on moving non-stationary.
Point of order, Lord Mayor. administration say they understand what to do. Can we just get on with it? No, just point of order. Administration says they know what to do with these. I don't know what we're looking to clarify.
When I finish, you'll know.
Just a moment, I think we do know what to do with it. I'm hoping that we can stop the council bringing out their street sweeper at 4:15 on alternate Thursdays outside my house. Not that I'm pleased. So I think we know what this means. Apparently there is something that we understand. So can I just clarify?
Through the presiding member, paragraph 3 of the administration comment indicates the administration's understanding of the intent of the motion.
That was not what I was going to talk about, but thank you.
I know Councillor Abada had a point of order which we now rejected.
Sure. So I'm grateful for Councillor Martin's slightly varied presentation of this, because that satisfies some of my concerns that I had prior to the meeting. There is an offence which is emitting excessive noise from a vehicle. That would be a moving vehicle or a stationary vehicle. It's not specific. But it would be a defence to that if your vehicle was satisfactory under the stationary test. Now, there was a question Councillor Martin asked about how that test is conducted and what those limits are. It is 96 decibels for pre-1983 and 90 decibels post-1983, but it is measured at engine speed at maximum power, which is defined in the test. Depends on the type of... It's important to the relevance, because what these cameras cannot do is comply with that test. So the question that I have as to what we're doing here, and it's something that I would like to see covered in the report, is what happens when we send off, assuming SAPOL allow us to, or if we refer it to SAPOL, what happens if we send off reports that end up being unfounded on test? Who bears the cost of that?
If it's unsubstantiated and unachievable.
So that's my query here, because the noise emitted from a vehicle is not just going to be engine noise. It could also be loud music, potentially. It could be yelling and screaming, hanging out the windows, having a crack.
Could be sweepers as well.
It could be many things. But these are the things that I would like to see in the report that we're asking for, and it's not something that I saw commented by the administration.
I think we'll take that as part of the report's basis, and it'll be incorporated. Thank you.
Thank you. And on that point, this strikes me as something very similar to our existing CCTV arrangement with SAPOL. I do think this is council business in that respect, and there's been some commentary that this is not something that council should be doing. There is a role that we do have to play in this, and so I'm happy to see the report as long as it includes those other items that I just mentioned. Thank you.
I don't, Lord Mayor, but I will be swift. I can see that this really is a priority. I mean, if we're just looking at new technology to help manage an issue that's been around for 8 years, that Councillor Couros has been plugging away at, then what's the harm in having a look at our options and bringing it back in a report? I only wanted to point out there's a slight irony I see here in, I'm happy to pilot this in O'Connell Street because I know there's a history there, but in this local government managing noise in North Adelaide under the EPA, when the North Adelaide golf course is not bound by the EPA anymore, and if the North Adelaide public golf course wanted to have a 365-day psytrance rave, they could. Not to say that they would, but I suppose local and state government may have different priorities in terms of noise in North Adelaide.
Councillor Martin, would you like to sum up? Summed up, all those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Furious agreement. Thank you. Motions without notice. Councillor Martin.
Lord Mayor, look, I raise a motion without notice, which I've distributed.
Oh, I did see one of those. It was Melbourne Street?
Yes, it is. It is, Lord Mayor. I understand that this does not incur any cost to the administration or the council. It is simply a letter to inquire, and I raise it on behalf of residents.
Do we not have to consult the residents? I'm just seeking advice.
Mr. Good, through the presiding member.
Thank you, and through the presiding member, I believe we do have to consult on a relocation of a bus stop, but if this motion is supported, we'd confirm that with DIT and PTSA.
I think, can you just help me with that? I didn't actually hear.
Through the presiding member, the question was, do we need to consult with the residents of Melbourne Street?
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, we would consult with the residents of Melbourne Street.
So through the presiding member, subject to this motion being resolved by council, we'll make the initial inquiries with DIT and then consult the community.
Okie dokie.
Can I point out that it's missing a word, the, before bus stop?
Sure, I'm having a bad night.
Can we have a the, please? Councillor Freeman, are you seconding?
No, I just wanted to declare a general conflict with this item, Lord
Conflict
Mayor.
declared. Councillor Couros seconding? Yeah, we'll still go for consultation. Are we in furious agreement?
Yes, Lord Mayor. Do you wish me to address it? There is an explanation.
If you must.
Yes, if I must. Thank you. Look, Lord, I'll sum up as well, Lord Mayor. Look, I raised this on the basis of communications from residents. It is partly as a consequence of the changes that are occurring on Melbourne Street with the alignment of crossings. Currently, the bus stop 4 is located near St Cyprian's Church. For those who attend church in this chamber, I'm sure you're familiar with the church. It is some distance from the shops and the general activity of Melbourne Street, and the proposition that's being put to the members is that the residents who've been in touch have asked if it could be moved slightly down to the centre of Adelaide, just before West Pallant, within the strictures of what's permitted by DIT, to around about 98-100, which puts it in the centre of O'Connell Street, away from the traffic lights, away from the zebra crossing, and everybody, including people visiting shops, including parents delivering and picking up children from the Lucy Moran kindergarten, will be able to access the buses easily without traversing the considerable distance and in the considerable congestion which is anticipated around the changes.
So that's summed up. The CEO just made a comment. It's potentially ultra various. Would he, through the chair, would he explain that?
Through the presiding member, SACAT may have no jurisdiction in relation to this matter, and that therefore that'll make it ultra vires.
SACAT would decide that if they got the letter. I was more concerned about part 1 and whether we can...
We need to take advice on both, but specifically, it might be a matter that's outside the jurisdiction of SACAT.
If I omitted the SACAC clause, would you still be uncomfortable with that?
Yes.
I'm not sure about the wording for part 1. I'd like to check that with the advice. I think it might justify a little clever checking. and detailed checking of the wording in 1.1.
Lord Mayor,
Can you just give me a moment to make a decision? So the advice I'm getting from governance is, could you put it on the agenda for next time and they'll get legal advice?
Lord Mayor, I do have a point of order on this.
What's your point of order?
The point of order on
Sorry,
this...
just a moment. You have to get in line. Councillor Kouros wanted to...
I was standing first, Lord Mayor.
Well, she was actually speaking first, so...
That doesn't mean
Did you have a point of order?
I don't anymore because you just
Okay, she doesn't wish to carry on,
Lord.
Councillor.
Now, may I seek leave for a short personal explanation before I get to the point of order, because it will substantiate the point of order.
What is... A point of order is a procedural element of the
That's correct.
council meeting. You can't stand for a point of order and then have a personal explanation. You need to
The
have one.
point of order is that the CEO's ruling may not be correct, and we may have...
It doesn't matter if he's correct. It doesn't matter if I'm correct. We just have to make best endeavours to do the best we can.
Sure. I do want to draw the attention to the behavioural standards panel.
Could you actually tell me if this is a point of order?
It is, on the
Okay,
basis
what's
that
your
we
point of
need
order?
to proceed with this. So in the panel, in the behavioural standards panel report, at paragraph 186, it requires...
I don't think I can retrieve a paragraph 186.
That's all right. I'm happy to read it to you, Lord Mayor. It requires that Councillor Davis's suspension be served immediately following the apology and no later than 2 ordinary council meetings following the publication of that report, published on July 22.
My ruling
With respect, could I please hear the councillor finish?
My ruling stands. This is not a matter of urgency. It will just as easily stand in 2 weeks' time. I will not accept this
Lord
motion.
Mayor, my argument is that it is
I'm
a matter
sorry,
of
I don't
urgency.
care. You've had your point.
Lord Mayor, I move to overrule the chair because I'd like to actually hear the councillor finish his piece.
Well, if you seek leave then for the meeting, but I will not accept the motion.
I'm moving to overrule the chair in this instance.
I think that I'll just vacate the chair then, if you'd like me to.
I'm not asking that, Lord Mayor. I'm just following the procedurals.
Well, the procedural motion. No, we're still dealing with a point of order.
The point of order first.
No, we're dealing with a point of order from Councillor Marr.
And I understand that this is quite a complex point of order, but it is urgent because the
So it's a
BSP
point of
report,
order.
the BSP report does require us to provide written confirmation from the council, that is us, that these orders have been completed, and then the following is that should Councillor Davis not comply with the panel's orders, the council is required... I believe that we are required to make this referral.
Please sit down.
Through the presiding member, the line of argument is a presumption that we've done nothing in relation to the behavioural standards report. Through the presiding member, I'm reporting to this chamber that we have sought clarification on the orders of the behavioural standards panel regarding whether they stand in the light of the resignation of Councillor Davis. I wrote to the Behavioural Standards Chair requesting that advice some 6 weeks ago. I'm awaiting a response. In the light of that, I'd suggest there's another reason for this matter to be considered through a motion on notice to the next council meeting.
Sorry, just questioning.
Lord Mayor, I'm happy to remove that dissent after that explanation from the CEO, and I appreciate that. I just really wanted to hear the councillor finish his piece.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, that really concludes it. The CEO's explanation does satisfy me in regards to our obligations that we supposedly have under the BSP, but he is right in stating that Councillor Davis no longer exists. It's Mr. Davis, so that is a good reason to seek legal advice.
Thank you. Thank you. That was my point of order. We're not in a debate. So
I just want to make a personal statement here that I find it a little bit offensive when I hear that it's not urgent, because this is targeted at the councillors that were targeted by Mr. Davis, and it's really, really disturbing on what he's doing in his social media posts. So it is offensive to actually hear that this isn't urgent, because I want him stopped. And if there's any way that we can stop him in his tracks in doing what he's doing continuously to actually
point of order, Lord Mayor.
the panel and the report and people like myself that were clearly
I understand your view, but
innocent in this. I get it, but it was a motion without notice because of something that I even saw today. And that is why I always treat motions without notice as urgent. So this is why I believe this is urgent. But I do actually take the point that it is sensitive, it needs maybe legal advice, but definitely this is urgent from my perspective, and also probably Councillor Snape and former Councillor Elliott.